Here's a tip for anybody that's, older, and by older I mean over 35. When we learned martial arts when we were kids, it was for practical reasons. We are perhaps too old to do like UFC stuff and stuff like that, but I competed in some things to a limited extent. But for us, it was a real thing we needed to use. And when you get older, there's something that Olympic trainers. I learned this from reading about fencing. There's basic reflex and there's compound reflex. So I might be mixing up the names of the terms a little bit, but I think it was basic and compound. So the idea is, when you're younger, you don't want to compete against somebody. If we're talking about fighting, trying to beat them to the finish line, you're not. So if you're going against a 25-year-old, you're not going to hit the point as quickly. But so that can't be taught. But what can be taught is compound reflex. So that's a sequence. So as you get older, what you want to do, you want to train sequences, right? So you use diversions and then combinations. You want to focus more on combinations. That's not inherent, like basic reflex, which is just your ability to get to the finish line first. That's inborn, and it diminishes with age, especially after like 35. But compound reflex cannot be taught, and that's something that should be focused on as you get older. The other thing is, if you listen to old karate guys, old Japanese guys, they say, hey, karate's not all about kicking and punching. The reason it became about that is because young guys wanted to compete. They wanted to do it as a sport. They wanted to win accolades, right? So it became a sport. But if you look into the kata, which comes from Kung Fu, there's a lot of attacking the throat, striking the eyes, hitting the nuts. And this too becomes more useful as you get older. The one thing you have to consider, you have to consider the psychological aspect, because if you do that, anybody that's around, his homies, his bros, they're gonna attack you with no remorse. That's an excuse for them to stomp your head in. So if you do that, you have to consider the situation. And I think if you're in a fight and there's a chance where somebody could break it up, whether it's security or police or whatever, definitely don't do that. But if you're in a situation where it's kind of life or death struggle, rip their throat out. That's it. Or just scratch their eyes. I mean, look at John Jones. He just flicks his fingers out, and these guys have to take a break from the fight. They have to take a break from the referee, just barely touching the eyes. Touching the eyes very slightly can end a fight. That's one of the few things I think too that's useful for a woman to use. So there you go.